Welcome to the Sold Too Early Sports Card Podcast. Currently not banned on Whatnot, unlike Blake Martinez. That's Kai. I'm invited to the Illuminati. And we are joined once again by EJ of Burbank Card Show and also Dynasty Mode. Dude, this show is in less than 3 weeks. Thank you for coming on and talking about it again. How the hell are you doing?
Oh man, I'm good. I'm good. Man, first two shows it was pretty much stress the mess out. This time around, I don't know, man. It's a weird feeling of just kind of relieved of like, okay, we're doing what we're doing. Okay, I'm sure that there's things that we have to pretty much pivot, right? But outside of that, I feel good. I feel good.
Dude, that's all I want to hear. I can only imagine what not stresses, but like what obstacles come with setting up a show and the way you've managed to scale this, because this time last year you were prepping for your first show in Marriott or Holiday, whatever the hotel chain was, and now you are literally turning it into the Anaheim Convention Center. Like it's pretty incredible, the meteoric rise in such a short amount of time. So first off, congrats. Like, you deserve to hear that. And secondly, I can't wait to be back out there. I love it. So I'm excited to see how everything looks in a couple weeks.
Yeah, no, and again, it's really up to you dealers, right? Like yourself, David, and it's really based on that growth of the expansion of really understanding the need, and we'll talk more about that during the episode. But we kind of go by, hey, how big do you want us to go? That type of thing. So this is probably as big as it's going to get. We'll see, and after this, but we'll definitely see for sure.
What other venues would be larger?
Yeah, I was gonna say. Are there even any bigger options?
So we could move to Anaheim. So for this show, we're taking over the new building, which is called the North Hall.
Okay.
There is an option to go to the concrete one where it's A, B, and C, and that's just about the size of the National. I think it's around like 700. Actually, it's bigger than the National. So we're seeing, again, we're not legacy National. National's 40 plus years. We're barely won, but we're definitely, we definitely have that inside. We have a great relationship with the Anaheim Convention Center. I'm sure LA Convention Center is also something that was probably the biggest rumor was at the National was about us and how we're going to venture off to LA. And I'll be fully transparent with you guys. We haven't had any conversations with LA outside of, hey, you guys are too small. Talk to us later when you're big. And that was last year. So outside of that conversation, I think LA is probably the biggest as far as in stature, but Anaheim is definitely big as in size. I think we could get up to like close to 1 million square feet in Anaheim.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So you talked about National for a second. A little segue. How was your National, by the way? Kai, I'm going to ask you that too. But EJ, what did you do? Because for you, is it more of like a networking experience, or like were you able to actually go and be a proper vendor or selling and trading? Like what was your experience like?
So initially my goal was Wednesday, Thursday was all corporate, right? I would do all the meetings. So just to kind of give you guys a bit of a history of myself, my first National was 2006 at Anaheim. And I was 13, 14 years old. And, of course, that same story where I got in because of LeBron, right? And then my second one was in Chicago. I think that was 2021, right? I'm sure you guys both went. Rosemont. Yeah. So 2021, and then 2022, of course, is, David, your favorite city, Atlantic City.
Totally love it. Yeah, love
AC.
Which
I have different opinions about that, but again, not my show. So the first show, I didn't know anyone, right? Chicago was just kind of more, I wasn't even going to go. And I consider the Chicago show in 2021 kind of my like coming out party, hanging out and doing as much deals as possible and just getting my name out there. That was my number one thing. Now, I didn't know I was going to be a promoter, right? But as far as a dealer, I just wanted to put myself out there. The second show in Atlantic City, we literally only had one book meeting for Burbank. This show, I had 20 meetings at this show, 20 plus meetings at this show. And I initially had it planned where Wednesday and Thursday was cool. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'd come deal and, even get to see you guys. David, I don't think I saw you until like Saturday.
I think literally I saw you for 2 minutes and you were like running to a meeting.
Yeah. And I was running literally to the other side to get it going. So, man, I mean, we're incredibly blessed. And again, it's something that's, I wish I could still deal. I miss it, right? But I'm sure there's going to come a time and day where I'm going to have a cool little show, or maybe even a Dallas where I could just deal. Maybe you and I will do another deal, David.
And you'll have to see what happens. Kai, what about you? I didn't get a chance to really talk with you about this. I know you and I and Joko actually partnered on one card at the end of the show, but how is it like? I know the story, but please inform the audience of your ordeal to even get to Chicago.
Oh man, well I guess we're starting at the beginning. So I had a 2.5 hour flight from Orlando there, and I think I was on the plane for about 7 hours by the time I got off of it. I think we were about an hour out from Chicago, and we had to land in St. Louis because the O'Hare airport was too crowded to land from the weather or something like that.
Yep.
So by the time we land in St. Louis, then we get back up in the air and we fly around a storm. We landed about 7 hours later. So that was fun. And then we get to the convention center, a little not issue or anything. We figured it out, but we had a little problem solving.
Showcase malfunction.
Yeah, malfunction with our little table setup, but it worked out great. We had an awesome time. We met everyone, Rob and the whole wolf pack. I'm wearing the shirt actually, but
there you go. Nice.
Yeah, first time setting up at the National for us. I don't think Joku has. I think he walked his last two, but it was great. We turned over, I think, with trades and selling over 100K worth of stuff probably. So, I mean, you can't really beat that. It's kind of our goal. We didn't have a number goal, but I think it was to turn over as much as we could, whether it was selling or trading it into stuff we wanted. But we were next to Beckett. I mean, people would grade their cards, then kind of walk over to us. So it wasn't awful, but I don't know. I wouldn't really change a lot for a first setting up at the National experience. I think I went pretty good.
I mean, listen, for how it started for you guys and how you were able to rally, you really you did the best you could, and your best was very fucking successful. So I'm very curious to see what happens next year in Cleveland, because the conversations that I heard about limiting vendor space, they're cutting it by 20% from what I heard, and they don't want vendors who already have their names on it subletting space, which good luck with that happening. I've heard both. They don't want it to happen, they don't want to police it, so good luck. Dude, I already booked my hotel for Cleveland next year because I don't want to take a chance. I know, it's scary.
Smart.
These shows continue to grow, and EJ, this is a great thing for you as well. If these shows are too successful and growing too fast, you might as well be as prepared as possible, because guess what? I booked a hotel room that I can cancel up to the day before I have to fly out. Why not just have it all settled and not worry about it? As a showrunner, as a show vendor, you have the opportunity to block off hotels, and that's great. Right. But guess what? We are now 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks out from your show.
3 weeks out, yeah.
There's not many. There's not many hotel rooms available. I imagine if you're trying.
Yeah, we've sold out of our room blocks. Literally after the National, we sold out of our last, and thankfully the Marriott, they're great partners of ours, and they're very accommodating, which is not necessarily the case when you're doing room blocks. That's the biggest thing that a lot of people understand. And for those of you guys that are texting me, I'm sure at this time, once the episode's out, we're probably sold out. So it's not always accommodating. That's why it's smart for you, David, to just book ahead. I mean, I'm planning to book both my National and I think there's another show. I'm trying to book my next Dallas, which is probably end of the year, if not the next. Even Dallas, you could book a Dallas hotel for 130, 150 around
135 pre-tax if you're on the group rate, something like that.
Yeah, really, and if you're smart, you get a Bonvay, right? Get that Marriott Bonvay, get your points up, and man, you'll get that late check-in, early check-out, early check-in, late check-out type of vibe, You'll be as cool as some of the higher end dealers, the influencers. So on top of that, take full advantage, especially those of you guys that are looking to have some write-offs at the end of the year. So,
dude, I love having a business credit card for this exact reason. It's just so easy. First off, what an interesting podcast. We're talking show vending and all this more stuff. Let's talk taxes. Yeah, having the business credit card incredible thing just to be able to write everything off at the end.
Sure.
What's interesting though, and you touched on this a little bit ago, you had 20 meetings at the National. I mean, is that all corporate sponsors who want to come and be at the Burbank show in August? Is it just people that were wanting to vend and like wanted to like talk to you personally about like maybe their collections or something insane? Like, what was that experience like for you?
Definitely more corporate, right? So definitely figuring out how corporate companies could relate into not just Anaheim, but also for future shows. Usually, I'm not speaking for all showrunners here, but for us, we like to kind of lock in. We have 2 shows a year, so we're trying to lock in Ontario for the year, and then of course our eventual next year. So definitely working out with different companies. I mean, now I could say it because everything's finalized, and then this is coming out next week, right?
This is coming out tomorrow, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll throw in some gems, but we just announced PSA, which was of course. They're huge partners of ours. Of course, the local side of it, it plays a huge play with the. A lot of people are asking, is PSA going to be on site? They'll be on site to do take-home submissions, but they'll also be doing a courier service, which for us locally in Southern California, that we're pretty familiar with it. But for those of you guys that do not know, courier service basically means is that they're going to take it back to HQ. They're going to grade it, and then they'll have it by quote unquote end of show.
That's sick.
But we're really trying to gear up for that. Again, things could change as far as even timelines go. We're just really, it's not even PSA at this point. It's just more of our logistical situation with the Anaheim Convention Center. You know, these are things that, of course, PSA would love to take on, you know, an end of day type of situation, or even every 2 days. But it's kind of more of our situation with the city and trying to make it as more fire marshal proof as possible. And that's something that PSA has done a great job of working with. We are closing in on some other grading companies that are coming in. Again, we're, no poker face aside, we wanted to wait till after the National, right? Because everybody's focused on the National. And once I came back, we were able to situate that with the meetings at the National, right? So PSA, and then of course we have some other companies that we're locking in on not just the grading side, but also on the authentication side. So we're really excited about providing that service for not just our dealers, but also for our guests.
Dude, I mean, you obviously are so rehearsed now you're talking about this, because I can feel like how you have expertly figured out what you want and your messaging behind it, and it's really impressive. If I remember the layout correctly for the show, it is going to be 2 floors, with the bottom floor being TCG and corporate, and the second floor being sports cards and like collectibles and stuff like that. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Awesome.
So our corporate side, we're trying this out again. We're a startup company, right? So we're trying to figure it out as we go. But the biggest issue we had at the last show was the traffic between the grading companies and the tables. Yep. Sometimes the grading companies would have stations, and then they would kind of wrap around. It'd be kind of a rope type of line, and it would sometimes affect our dealers. So we're really trying to use the luxury that we have of space to make sure that that's separate. And then of course we're really excited about our expansion to TCG, as well as our expansion with our kids trade days and our kids trade zones, which we're excited to announce even further. And then on top of that, our second floor, which is my favorite floor, and I'm being biased because I'll probably have some time to buy and trade some cards, and that's the second floor, which I call Battlegrounds. And that second floor is just going to be filled with some of the nastiest cards you'll ever see. It'll be filled with some of the biggest trades, one of the biggest things that I judge a show is not necessarily attendance, but by how many deals are being made. Is it more of a museum show? How are the dealers, right? Like that's how I personally judge shows. And I'm very, very proud that we have some of the best dealers, and we have probably the second best dealer list in the country. And I'm very proud of that.
So with it being 2 floors, how are you going to help coordinate people who might be a little concerned between the difference of floor 1 and floor 2? Is it going to be easily marked? Are people going to know, hey, TCG is here, Pokemon is over there, Yu-Gi-Oh's here, sports cards there? Like, how do you make sure that people are not confused? Because I can tell you, EJ, people are fucking stupid, and they're gonna be so confused if they don't have all the material like seared into their brain.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm not saying as in like I.
No, I know.
I'm saying that as I'm also stupid. But one of the biggest things as far as just not just running shows, but also running a business is dumb it down, right? And dumb it down as much as you can. I know there's a different pushback on us as far as the current map. So what we did was we actually partnered with a company called Gem 10, and Gem 10 is going to make an interactive map that you'll be able to access both on mobile as well as desktop earlier before the show. And then we'll also have different banners that will have different sanctions. We'll have a ton of different marketing materials that will show, hey, look, this is where this is at. This is where that's at. I'd love to execute something where it's an interactive screen right when you enter, and you'll be able to see not just where the corporate companies are going to be at and where the different sections are going to be at, but also where is Extraordinary Cards going to be at? Where is KP2 Cards is going to be at? Where's Dynasty Mode going to be at? Like that way, it's an experience for both our guests to be able to see where exactly that dealer is or where that corporate company is. We want to make sure it's as easy as could be. The background behind that is when you go to the mall, you can see a kiosk.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's kind of our biggest thing. And again, guys, like we're really trying to gear that outside of. I just posted it on my personal page, and then I'm going to post it on my LinkedIn because I want to be as corporate EJ as possible. That's my new nickname, by the way, is corporate EJ.
Dude, you're building an incredible resume, so do it.
Really are.
But on top of that is we partner with the PSAs of the world. We partner with, the legacy companies and the leading companies. But, a company like Gem 10 is a startup company with great young guys. And that's something that I wanted to also explore was partnering with the companies that people may not know. Right. And are offering, different assets to our industry rather than the content side. And we'll get into that too. But, these are companies that are building out things and apps that actually matter instead of the typical apps that we have no idea what the hell they're doing. Yep. So, outside of that, we're really excited, and it looks like they'll be able to have that up a week before the show. So we'll be able to test that out and be able to make sure that that's as A1 as possible for all of our guests, our dealers, and all of our sponsors as well.
Listen, EJ, I can only speak for myself. I'm sure Kai would agree. We're happy to help test out the project as well. Yeah. Even if it's on this podcast, like we can do a test case. I don't really care. I'm happy to be involved because
that's cool.
You, as like a young businessman who has a background in this marketing world, actually get it. Like you are willing to adapt and try new things. Even if it doesn't work perfectly, you at least are willing to be the trendsetter. And you know what? In a year or two, when other shows start to pay attention and they maybe have a larger venue, or if the national ever pays attention, oh my God, could you imagine that? Maybe that might be an opportunity that they might explore. You are willing to be innovative and understand, hey, this might not be the perfect solution, but you're willing to try it. And that's what I really like about this. Because if it does well, everyone's going to copy it and not going to give you credit, which is probably the best praise you could ever get, is people wanting to emulate your success.
Right. And again, it's a collective effort. I mean, my two other business partners are I'll say this respectfully, they're old as shit, Jay and Rob are in their 50s, but kudos to them. They see that vision as well as like, hey, look, like we can't just have a floor map on our website that just says Extraordinary Cards 111. Like we'd love to have.
What the fuck does that mean?
Table number 101, like things like that, where it's like we want to make sure it's as interactive as possible, and we also want to make sure that our mobile side is interactive, because truthfully told, like our website, in my opinion, is the best website on earth, right? But outside of that, like no one's really looking at it from a desktop perspective besides someone buying a ticket. Outside of that, I'd say about 90% of our users are mobile, right? Most of the time when you guys are on Instagram, you guys aren't looking at Instagram on desktop. You're looking at it on a mobile interface. So that's something that we're working with with our partners to make sure it's as complete as possible. But yeah, kudos to the team for making that happen.
I had to pull it up because I was curious. First off, dude, it looks great. Not sponsored, but clearly not sponsored, but I'm going to be honest. This looks awesome.
Great website.
the funny thing is too is the visuals on a website mean so much, and you are right. You obviously are going to have a vast majority of people look at it on mobile because guess what? We're on Instagram most of the time. We're going to link out to it, and hey, I'm going to check from my phone. But having it up here on the screen, you can tell very clearly like someone put a lot of care and effort into it. And unlike some other shows a year or two ago that looked like they were in 1984. Thankfully, you're seeing a renaissance in the ability of people to actually build capable.
Right.
Well, one basic off EJ when he was saying that the numbered booths and stuff. I mean, for us at the National, we made a few deals beforehand, and we were going to deliver the cards to people's booths. But I mean, it's such a shit show to figure out where these booths are with just a number. Like having a map like that can honestly be like a huge game changer.
Kai, I didn't know there was half a show missing until day 5.
Yeah.
I walked past Beckett, like there was like the car vendor that was there. I don't know what the car was for.
The Michael Jordan car thing.
Whatever. Okay, I didn't realize you walked past that, and there was like a whole other show. I found PWCC at the end of the show. I'm like, what the fuck is this doing here? Like, who put this here? It's like a whole other show. How did they have a good time? I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if someone's like, hey, I'm booth number 1255, it's like they have the aisle that says 1200, but, I mean, you just have no clue where that exact booth is. I mean, having a map like that where it kind of would, like, tell you where you are roughly at least, like, that's huge.
Yeah. Dude, this is so crazy. So one thing that was actually brought up, one of the questions that we had was related to getting more East Coast dealers available to your show, which, by the way, obviously, I'm from New Jersey. I'm going to be out there. Kai, you're in Florida. You're coming out to the show. Joko's in California, so like that's these things right there. I mean, as you've seen the show expand, I know you've mentioned before that you're having international dealers come in. Like, how do you make it so it's as accessible as possible to as many dealers as possible?
So we're still really trying to figure that out. The biggest thing for us, honestly, is we're never going to have like a perfect system. We see that with the National, right? Like we're never going to have a system. We're not going to make everybody happy.
No.
But I think the biggest thing that we're trying to do as Burbank is we're really trying to make it look like we are going to have to look out for the folks that have been loyal to us. But at the same time, we want to make sure that there's somewhat of an equal chance for someone to come in, right? Because I'll be honest with you, like most of my favorite dealers are guys that started in 2020 and above. And that's just kind of the biggest flack for me that I hear is like, well, EJ's young, so he caters to the young dealers. And that's not necessarily the case. Like I have a ton of respect for the dealers that's been in the game for years, right? It's just at the same time, the system that we're trying to build is, yes, we'll have that side with legacy and we'll make sure that our dealers that have that space allocated for them and they're happy to come back, we'll make sure we'll take care of them. But at the same time, we'll make sure that there's an equal chance for everybody to at least, have that opportunity to get in, right? And we're very fortunate to be in that position. But at the same time, like especially our show next year is slated to be in Ontario, which is closer to like 150 square feet. So, it's the same problem as the National where they're going from Chicago to Cleveland. But at the same time, California, it's so much harder to get space. So, for us, we're really just trying to figure that out. And, I'm sure as time progresses, we'll have a better system. But, the biggest thing with that end is we're really trying to cater to dealers that actually deal, right? Yeah. And I don't apologize saying that. Like, I feel like as a dealer, you should be dealing cards. Like, you probably shouldn't, like, just kind of be there and, like, have stuff that, like, no one wants. Like, and that's me being really, really nice. Like, I could get...
I can say a meter for you, or you have dealers who bought in at 2020 prices and have not sold and refuse to sell. And, they have a museum now or a crypt. Yeah. Want to be more dramatic. Items that
exactly. And again, like, there's nothing against that. It's just, maybe that's not Burbank Card Show material because, again, it's an extension of Burbank Sports Cards. And what we're known for is buying and selling and trading. We're not really known for just having the same stuff for the past 6 months. There's stuff that we sell, that we bought yesterday and it sold today. Like that's what we're, really our brand is, right? And even for myself is Dynasty mode. Like I don't really have the same things for months on end, and I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of people don't understand is yeah. I mean, we love the collector aspect of it, and that's also intriguing, especially to me. But also, if you're going to buy a dealer table, I mean, it kind of goes with the dealer name, right?
Yeah.
So
ironic, huh?
What a crazy
Yeah.
thought! How dare you, EJ?
yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, we're not trying to find museum tables. We're trying to find dealer tables, and I don't say that to sway away anyone that wants to get dealer tables. I mean, look, it's my job. I'm the promoter of the show. I'm supposed to get as many tables as possible. But even then, like, there's some folks that I've told them, I said, look, this may not be the show. I mean, maybe you could come in as a VIP or come in as and there's other companies that I've told them is like, hey, look, maybe a table might not be it, but maybe a booth, right? Because there's companies that are trying to push their brands, and that's not really a dealer table per se, right? So, and that's why it's kind of, again, I could sell the mess out of tables, but at the same time, if I'm not honest with our own guests, they're not going to come back.
Is there a vetting process when someone fills out an application or no? Like, how does that exactly work? Because admittedly, I filled out one vendor thing in the past for Dallas, and that's all I've ever done. Even on my own space at Burbank, I'm connected through Lucas now, and previously I was connected through Nady. So I've never filled out that application. I don't know what that actually looks like. So
right. So that application is very simple. It's just like let's say Kai's filling up the application, right? And it's like, hey, like, this is what I'm going to bring. We basically ask you, hey, what's your Instagram? What's your website? This and that, the third. And then also, hey, what are you bringing? And then, we also have a little input picture button that will show like, hey, show kind of some of your cards that you want to show off. And, of course, on the high end side, guys love that, right? They want to like show off their like gold Otani. When realistically, like, we're really just kind of looking to see if like you're a known dealer. Like for myself, I'll just be honest, like, I just look at your Instagram and then I do a Google search to make sure you're not a scammer. And then, I also check IPs and make sure everything is right because, again, we want to have the right to refuse just in case something bad happens, right? Or, I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. Like, we had a great situation with a dealer in the past, and there was some controversy that happened between that dealer and his share of PSA. I guess he was a PSA authorized dealer, and then it just didn't work out. And they had solved the issue, so now he's now he has the he's wanting to come back. But for us, it's like can't really have you come back until you solve everyone's issue, right? He solved it with PSA, but what about the dealers that are down just because they had dealt with you? So that's kind of
what you mean by that,
yeah, like, and that's me being as transparent as possible. But at the same time, like, we're also looking out for our guests. We're looking out for our dealers. There's guests that I had to tell them, hey, you can't come back to the show because, there was a fake slab or a fake card. And, again, like every other show, there's some things that just kind of weed through the cracks. And that's something that we just are very grateful for, that it's a very tight-knit community, right? We all know that, right? When there's a card stolen, when there's a card that, may be, fake or maybe, a terrible transaction, like we call it out very quick. Our industry is very, very good at that, where we don't have to necessarily police it as Burbank, but there's times where, hey, look, there's a guy that may have done something shady and we just can't have them until, all that is clear.
Do you see at the National the guy selling the PSA 10 fake MJ for $3,000? Did he come to your table or no?
I should have bought it.
Are you talking about me? The one, fake. Someone brought it to like MC after they bought it or something, right?
Oh, okay. So there's two situations.
There were two fake.
A lot of fake MJs apparently.
Yeah.
The first one, which Kai's talking about, was a PSA 7.
It was like a 7 or a 6.
Yeah, that was bought by someone.
The slab it was so fake, like terribly fake. I don't know how, if you did have Delton cards, you would.
It was like an elder gentleman that had a PSA 10.
That's the one I was referring to.
Yeah.
Yes. So that
PSA
one,
7, I didn't hear anything about that, Kai. Yeah, that seems more realistic.
That one, I don't know if they were ever made whole. As far as I know, the deal was like, I guess, cashing him a home Silver Prism rookie auto.
Yeah, as far as I know, they weren't.
that fucking sucks. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not making fun of you. I was more alluding to the guy who I am making fun of, who was selling a PSA 10 fake MJ. He was asking full comps, which is $200,000, and then somehow got whittled down to $3K when obviously the card is fake. So that's what I was more making fun of.
Who bought it?
Negotiated that as a beast.
I mean, listen, no, it's still fake. So I mean, that markup, that percentage.
Do
I know who bought? No one bought it. It was just people making fun of him on Instagram.
I saw it was
Oh,
never mind.
I saw it on. I think I saw it on Old School or Hotspot on Facebook.
Yeah, Kai, come on. Listen, I know there's some dealers.
Kai only sees the good in the hobby. He only sees the good.
Guys.
I guess I only see the stupid because I could definitely see someone buying that and be like, "Oh, look at this thick steal I got." It's like, well, yeah, there was a steal. You got robbed, but
that was honestly, man, like going back to the Flair Jordans, like that was like my favorite move to do at Dallas. Like I did that for like a solid like year and a half, or I'd buy a Flair Jordan and it would be probably of course it's one of the easiest cards to move, right? So there was like 3 Dallases where I just would that would be my play. So seeing that was kind of funny to.
It's so interesting as a dealer. Like there is a balancing act between. You obviously want to stock your stuff with things that will move easily, but you also don't want to get lost in the void because, hey, if you're only going after 5 quarterbacks right now and everyone wants to own them, yeah, you'll be pretty popular, but there's nothing special about what you own.
There's no substance behind it.
I think there is always going to be a balancing act. Obviously, you want to have stuff that moves. You don't want to have a crypt. You don't want to have a museum of stuff that can't sell. But you also want to, not just collect base prisms or rookie autos of the same 4 guys everyone else wants. So there is always going to be that balance. You have to find it. And I think that's what you, EJ, and Kai have done very well is your inventories, whenever I had a chance to look at your pages, is always fresh and new. And I know, EJ, you don't have the chance to set up as much as you want to, but Kai, you and Joku have managed to really build out something very impressive over 6 months. You guys were working together.
I mean, I think our goal in the last 2 months has been exactly what you said, is to turn over stuff as fast as we can, whether it's like getting something in, grading it. Maybe we don't want to grade it, and we just turn it over as fast as we can, get the money back, take our profit. I know it's a classic saying by all like the influencers and stuff, but like take your profit. I mean, if you can turn it over in 2 days and make 20%, I mean, why would you not do that? I mean, you can grade it, sure. I mean, it's not a guarantee, even if you have a great eye, that it'll come back a 10. But I mean, I don't see anything wrong with turning stuff over and refreshing your inventory when the sports cycle, and you can turn it over faster, get from football to basketball, even baseball if you wanted to. I mean, yeah, I think that's a really big key these days, especially with how the market is. If you can move your stuff fast and be profitable doing it, I don't see why you wouldn't.
Yeah, especially now. And EJ, this is such an interesting time for your show because it is the last week of August into Labor Day. So you have football starting the Thursday we get back from that show. So that's
crazy.
The 6th or 7th or something like that. I expect the Burbank card show to be basically 85% football, people trying to get that last little bit of sales out, and basketball. I expect no baseball to move at the show other than like Ohtani, which will probably be the singular hottest player there.
Yeah, Ohtani is definitely the clear guy. I mean, like selfishly speaking, it's probably going to be majority football, 90s basketball, which I don't know if you guys noticed at the National, it was kind of getting dry as far as 90s rare inserts and
I didn't
here and there, like. I don't know if that's kind of spiked up on a sense of just that one guy who's spiking it up, but 90s basketball for sure. And then of course, California is a different market. And I again, like it's such a different market. Yes, you'll have the footballs and the quarterbacks, and you'll have the guys that's going to want to get, some random quarterback that we're just like, okay, dude, like, here you go. But outside of that, it's a very, very high-end market, I'd say. And we're trying to make it, again, we're trying to make it to where it's a market for everyone, right? But that's what Southern California is known for at the moment. I mean, even Northern California, we've had dealers who skipped the National and they're considering Burbank their National, and they're going to be offloading some of their higher end stuff at Burbank. So,
I mean, that makes complete sense though, especially if you live in that area or anything like that. I mean, I think it's fair to say that California in general, maybe even SoCal more specifically, is not the Mecca is not the right word. Kind of like the spot to be if you are in the high end trading market. Because first off, LA in general, Southern Cal and SoCal in general is a place that is desired anyway. And then you have people who have a ton of disposable income all coming together who might have a similar interest. It makes sense. Also, because you could obviously have shows basically all year round because hey, it's fucking gorgeous. In the East Coast, not so much. And it's so interesting the dynamic that seems to be building between the West Coast shows and the opportunities you guys have versus East Cost. I was having this conversation a couple of days ago, actually, with some dealer friends. There are no real significant shows that are in the East Coast that compare to Chicago, to Dallas, or obviously to Burbank. And I think one of the issues that we have, honestly, except for the weather, which is a big issue, is we don't have individuals like yourself, EJ, who are willing and able to really push the envelope forward. So if you were someone who was setting up a show for the first time, if you're someone who wanted to create a show, like what are some like really easy like missteps or tricks that like they might not know of that you can now speak to as an expert?
Well, I'll start off by saying that I've already been asked to potentially do an East Coast show, and I basically told him, I said, well, this is how much it's going to cost for an EJ type of show, right? Yep. But I love the question. I really do believe that there's an opportunity to run a show, whether you're in Orlando, whether you're in New Jersey, in your area. I think the biggest misconception when you're running card shows is, or when, especially for me, is a lot of people think that like out the gate, EJ just knew like, all right, we're gonna grow it. Like, dude, honestly, my goal for the first show, I think I told you this, David, was like, yo, I just don't want it to be a fire fest. Yeah. Like, I just want us to not get embarrassed, and it's like, like I'll make sure like, all that is good to go, and like, hey, look, guys, if you guys want to do the show again, we'll do it again here. Like that's all I really wanted, and going back to that mind frame of really knock out your city, like really, really get that loyalty from your dealers locally, right? So if you want to run a show, let's say, New York's a terrible example, just because
you cannot do a show in New York City ever.
Yeah,
too expensive.
Jesus, yeah, no, that's different. But like, let's say Merrick, New York. That's a perfect example. Merrick, New York.
My favorite place.
Yeah, great place. So. Merrick, New York, let's say, you're trying to grow a 50 table show, right? A 50 table show, work with some of the local areas, figuring out the areas that maybe have a big footprint and do not have, one of the biggest things I love to do, especially with a company like the Marriott, a big company like that, is like, hey, look, like we're going to bring a bunch of people to trade night. There's going to be a bunch of kids at trade night. I'm sure they're going to want some water. They're going to want some of this. They're going to want some of that. They're going to, like the bar in Dallas, right? Yeah. Like I'm sure those guys
they rake it.
Field day. Every show they have like a meeting. They're like, guys, this is what's going on. These guys are going to be drunk till 11 o'clock. If it was up to me, that bar would be open until
7 a.m.
until 4 o'clock or until the next day. I don't care. Like the amount of money and again, like growing that negotiation with that same spot, like I would start with that. Like I would start with contacting some of your dealer friends, some of your friends. Like some of my first dealers at my first show were my friends. And I literally asked them like, hey, Kai, would you pay $60 a table? Right. And it's the funniest thing because at $60 a table, you'd think it's a no brainer. But, there's still people who are like, is it 6 foot? Is it 8 foot? I'm like, yo, it's $60. But at the same time, like work with your local city. There's no shame to the game, guys. Like my first show was at a basketball court, at a gymnasium, right? And like really starting with your city. I had a horror story, not me, but I had heard a horror story last year of a company that put up $1 million in budgets to run a show. And, their idea of a show was kind of like how our show is right now, right? And out the gate, they were like, we're going to have a big show. And the problem is they didn't have the relationships with the dealers. They didn't have the relationships with a David or a Kai and the younger guys. So like they're like 4 months in. They already have a deposit with a big convention center, and then they're like, oh shoot, like this is much harder than it seems beyond money, right? So I always tell folks, like, start small, like start really small, really understand, because this is definitely the hardest job outside of actually making cards, right? So it's maybe harder than making cards. I don't know. So
I mean, they fuck up a lot of cards, so I'm pretty sure that your job might be a little harder, unless you want.
Once I said that, I was like, all right,
yeah, hang on.
I'll leave another topic to David here, but definitely my advice would be really to take over your city. You know, whether that's Merrick, New York, or whether that's Compton, California, it doesn't matter. Like, you know, Compton might not be good. I'm
pretty sure we don't need bad cities. How about we don't do this?
You know what? Let's call a good city. Let's do Kai, where are you from?
Orlando.
Like be more specific.
I mean, you're not gonna know where it is though.
Just say like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like inside Orlando, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, look, like, hey, like you go through some of the biggest Orlando dealers and just be like, look, at $60, will you set up at my show? You know, and the biggest thing that I also say is like, hey, don't budge. Like, make sure you have a business model. Make sure that it's safe. Make sure there's enough space for people to do deals. And again, I think another thing that I want to mention here is it's never too serious. It is never too serious. There's local shows in Southern California, no names. I know you guys are probably going to watch this because you guys watch everything that I do. But there's shows that don't allow guests to deal with other guests.
I saw that. I don't know if it was Nashville or some other like more like major show apparently trying to do that.
Sure.
I was fucking shocked. Why would you do that? What's wrong with you?
Like I will confidently say, like, I run one of the biggest shows in the country, and like even then I'm just like, I don't understand that. I'm sorry. Like, I feel like we're bringing the people there, and it's really up to the dealers to like, yo, like, if the dealers don't have good deals, then if like me and Kai go to a show, if we go together and we're just like, yeah, there's no dealers that want to do deals with us. Hey, you want to do a deal together? And we're like, all right, cool. Like, we'll do a deal together. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't understand that concept.
No sense.
I will add this though. As long as they're attending and they're paying guests, I think whatever they do is perfectly fine. Now, one thing I saw at the National, and anyone who was at the National too probably saw this, there were so many people outside of the venue, which was dangerous. Yeah. Not only was it people just like fucking in the middle of nowhere, basically setting up their cards, like putting them on the ground, like hoping no one stepped on them, but also you can't confirm as the showrunner these people paid to be here. That's where I draw the line. Like, if EJ, there were people setting up outside of Anaheim Convention Center dealing cards, they'd be like, yeah, like what is this happening?
That's uncalled for, because, you know, number one, city officials and fire marshal won't allow that, so that's on top of our end. But number two, look, you know, we can't stop guys from making deals. I think that was cool to see at first, right? Like I think I saw Ryan's video, Card Collector 2, and he was like, yeah, that's awesome. But like for me as a card showrunner, I'm like, yo, like, that kid could get like trampled. Like, yo, like some of these kids are like 10 years old. Like their Zion cases were bigger than them. And like their parents were allowing this. I'm just like, yo, like that floor is not sanitary. Like, like my wife is a germaphobe. And like, if she saw me like sitting down, okay, like we gotta go ahead and put all the clothes in the laundry. Like there's a lot of things that go beyond just running shows on that. Now, again, like we can't stop people from doing deals with each other.
Nor should you.
Yeah. And again, like I hate to put over Dallas as much, but you know, but look, like those guys, like they don't police. Like, you know, if you go to the, you know where that spot is where that like random iMac is at, like that random iMac. So
in Dallas, for everyone who is not aware, it is a hotel with a convention center attached. If you walk right into the lobby, you have like the bar and like a glass table that no one's allowed to use anymore because we kept putting shit on it. If you walk to the right, there's like iMacs, like printers for like normal people to like print out like their boarding pass for the airport or any other documents, you know, important things.
Yeah.
Card collectors just fucking steal the area.
Dude, I saw someone literally have card ladder up on that freaking iPad.
That's amazing.
And he's like, hey, I'm here to buy. You know, like, and he's literally on the card ladder while on the iPad. It's like he bought that table. You know, like, again, like, we can't police that, but outside of that, yes, I would have loved, again, selfishly speaking, not just as a promoter, but also as a guest, I would have loved them to kind of police that a little bit, because it got to a point where it was hard to walk into that floor.
Correct.
Right?
Well, you're going to travel some kid and his cards.
Yeah, and I'm not even thinking about a sense of like dealing cards. I'm talking about like, yo, like there's a kid that's like sitting there, and there could be a fire hazard where a bunch of, you know, like that could be straight like that. I'm thinking as a promoter. So yeah.
You're correct. I'm also now going to bring up Lowe's for a second. EJ, Kai, did you go to trade night at all on Lowe's before the police
I didn't
came?
make it before it got shut off.
EJ, did you see it at all or no?
No, I didn't get to see that. I think I came through right after it shut off.
So let me give you some context. On Friday or Saturday, forgive me on which day it was, not only was the police came one of those days because it was so busy in there. There were collectors laid down all the hallways, causing like actual fire hazard. There was also a wedding going on. And I think they complained as well, which they were well within their right to, because of how fucking dirty it was.
Well within their right.
How much it smelled. And honestly, it wasn't safe. So in that extension, and EJ, I hope this is something you guys are now like able to keep in mind, because that was a disaster. What can you do with you guys are obviously having a trade night, right? Like there's a designated trade night at some point in time for the Burbank show?
Yes. So we have an official trade night, and that is on the second floor of the convention center. So we'll have that for you guys. It's about 10,000 square feet. And we'll also have that outside space for you guys. But then, of course, we have the Marriott, right? So we're working with the Marriott to make sure that, hey, look, like, guys, we understand you guys have to make deals. It's just, hey, look, let's just not break anything, and let's be as cordial as possible. Now, we did already talk to, and again, we're talking to our partners pretty often as far as, like, how can we better accommodate our guests. But I think the fail thing is that most of the hotels like just don't really understand, right? Like they don't understand the concept behind trade nights. They don't really understand the concept behind, you know, random guys that are at, you know, on the random areas at like 2 a.m. in the morning. They're expecting that, hey, look, you guys already were at a show from 10 to 7. Like usually
go to bed.
But at the same time, hey, look, there's guys that love this so much. I love my bed more than this. So, you know, we're accommodating. Luckily, the Marriott's a big size hotel, and we're accommodating to make sure that, hey, look, there's at least that floor space for you guys to do deals. There's the lounge space. You know, I think they'll be happy as long as you guys buy some snacks and some drinks.
How far away is the Marriott from the convention center?
It's literally it's connected. So Marriott's right here. The main Anaheim Convention's here. There's literally 2 entrances to get outside, and there's the Anaheim Convention Center, and then you just walk 5 minutes, and you're at the North Hall.
Oh, sick. Okay, so it's not connected, but it's like
it's not connected, but yes, it is. Yeah, it's just outside. So when you walk outside, you're at the convention center.
That's sick. Okay,
not bad at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost to a point that pretty much all of my shows moving forward, I'd love to, at the very least, connect, if not be about 5-minute Uber ride to the convention center.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you for the Ontario show, first off, that hotel was very it was gorgeous, and you could see the convention hall from the Marriott. Yeah. I don't remember the hotel name. It doesn't matter. It was gorgeous. It was a nice place to be, and it was all super convenient. Like, you really can't beat that. I don't really have any other questions. I think we kind of crushed it. Like, are there any closing thoughts? Any like thing that kind of like is rattling in your brain, EJ or Kai, that like you want to talk through, think about, or are we good? I think we kind of got a lot of it covered, but I could easily be missing something.
I think the biggest thing that I would love to say, and this is kind of just more my personal opinion on shows and things of that nature, is it's again, very, very proud of our team. In less than a year, we're considered, and this is not my words, we're considered as the West Coast National, right?
That is true. That is a true statement.
Something that's just like, for me, as number one, a college dropout, and the only experience I have of running events is I used to throw house parties back in the day. No college experience whatsoever. I mean, look, like we put in the hours, we put in the change, and that's why it's big for me to give Jay and Rob, my business partners, the credit as far as pivoting. I think that's the key thing in the conversation is pivoting. There's a lot of card shows. I get this all the time, dude. Like there's a lot of card shows that that emails me or will email one of my partners directly and be like, hey, I've ran a show in Merrick, New York for 30 years. How come you can't come to my show? Right? Like there's shows that are like, I've been running shows since Derek Jeter was 12. And like, how come I can't get PSA or Beckett's and this and that? And the biggest thing that I always tell people is really build your asset, like build what you bring to the table. There's a lot of guys that are takers in this industry. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean that as like, hey, like it's a very transactional industry, right? But I think that ability of like, this is what I could provide for your business. Like that's a very, very invaluable thing to have in this industry. And like with the talks of the Fanatics thing and the talks of what the National is going to do, like all that's really irrelevant in a sense. If I'm talking more as a promoter here, is if you're doing your part to grow your show, right? Like there's a lot of shows that are like, okay, what is this guy doing? What is that guy doing? What is this guy doing? Like we still have the same mission statement. We're just trying to have the best show possible in Southern California. So if anybody else wants to come, if Kai wants to come from Orlando, if Dave wants to come from Jersey, like, of course, yes. But I think that's probably the biggest thing is like we're so early in this new thing that we're doing, which is the hobby, that I think a lot of people are still kind of geared towards, oh, like this is what happened in 1995, when really all that's irrelevant at this point, right? Like Kai and Joku are talking about the turnovers that they have, like in about like 2 years, that's going to be over 1 million, maybe 2 million plus in inventory. So like,
yeah, there you go.
Business is going to be. Yeah, and I'm just saying that in the sense that like a lot can change in a year, right? And like going back to, okay, like this is what innovation is for EJ and his team. I'm like, that's not even innovative if you like look at other industries. Like so like when we talked with Anaheim, or I think this was after Atlantic City, and of course Atlantic City was like, oh, we don't have Wi-Fi, right? We asked Anaheim, like, hey, how much bandwidth do you guys have in Wi-Fi? And this is literally the answer that they gave us. Well, we host BlizzCon. And if you guys don't know BlizzCon,
I know BlizzCon
it's one of the biggest video game events. And of course, they need freaking Wi-Fi. So what I'm trying to say is that like National didn't even have AC. And the National guys know me. Like, dude, these guys are friends of mine. Like they're great. Shout out to the guys at the National. Great guys. But like, that's like uncalled for. Like there should be AC at every show.
That was terrible.
There should be Wi-Fi at every show.
It smelled like ass. It smelled
exactly
so bad.
Like again, we're so early in this that exactly what I'm trying to say is like we're so early in this that like for us to be a disruptor in this industry in less than a year, it shows that we still have to work on other things collectively to make this industry better, right? And I'm proud to be one of the guys outside of the Nationals, whatever. But like, there's things that I'm like looking at our sheets, and I'm just like, okay, we need to be better because I'm competing with Complex Con. I'm competing with Comic Cons. Like, I'm not looking at Dallas. I'm not looking at any other show. Now, of course, there's times where, myself, Kyle, Leo, like we'll talk amongst ourselves and, try to figure out better deals for the thing. But even then, it's like, there's a disconnect within the newer, with the innovation, and then there's the legacy. So I'm sure in a year or so we'll have a closer bridge of that. But again, it's really uncalled for to not have AC and to not have Wi-Fi at the show. Like that to me is just. I mean, look. I don't run the National again. I'm not trying to say that in a negative light. I'm just saying. Like,
no, I'll say it in a negative way for you, so you're covered. How the fuck does a show not have AC for 2 days? How do you not fix that? Like, come on.
I had a buddy who was flying in Friday. Shout out to my brother BNB Sports, 90s basketball guy. He got me and my friends fans. Those mobile fans.
I had a fan. I bought a fan. It was amazing.
I don't know. Like that's me. And again, like even my show, we have negatives, things like that, but we work on it. Like there's things like that where it's like, look, like if let's say Anaheim was the shit show, we're not doing Anaheim again. Like that's something that's beyond PNL to me.
Yep.
Like to me, like there's things outside of that, and I think I'm. I'll be Dave. I'll ruffle some feathers here. Like to me, like there's things outside of P&L that's like, you know what? Like maybe we should kind of give a mess about safety here. We should probably understand it. Like we're spending literally almost $500,000 on Anaheim.
Holy fuck!
And like guys, like we're a business. We have to look at P&Ls. I'm the executive director of the show, so I have to make sure that my team gets fed before me. Right? And it's like, it is pretty much non-negotiable Wi-Fi. It is non-negotiable AC. It is non-negotiable safety. We're going to wand everybody to make sure that all that is good to go. Right?
Wow.
Like we have Anaheim PD, like ready to go. Like we have Anaheim PD to where it's a point where we should probably just have them sponsor the show. The amount of money it costs to get the freaking city involved. But all that to say this is there's things when you run card shows or run anything, events or anything, especially with you guys as dealers. Like if you guys, let's say something happens where there's a bad deal, you reverse it. You don't worry about it. You reverse it. You don't try to fight it. You don't try to like, oh, well, he's wrong, this and that, the third. You just call it a day, and then a true seasoned dealer is going to reverse it and focus on the next deal, right? Like it's the same with card shows where it's like, yo, I'm not going to, if a city is unsafe, I'm not going to tell my dealers, hey, look, if we go back here, we'll save $600 per table. Like to me, if it's unsafe, it's not going to work out.
No, because then people are not going to want to come back anyway.
Yeah, like to me, that's just like, I'm sorry, guys, this is an exclusive. So like that's my theory is like, yo, like again, like I'm not trying to be quote unquote the West Coast Nationals. We're trying to be the best show possible for ourselves and our city. And what I know in our city is that it's sunny California. And it's hot AF. So what we want to do is make sure that we at least have Wi-Fi and AC.
Man, what a revolutionary thought here in 2023. How dare you, EJ?
The bar is on the floor.
Sorry.
Yeah, how dare you ruffle the feathers of the card show market? I have nothing else to add. Kai, anything you want to jump in with?
No, I think we hit it on the head.
Dude,
I'm excited.
EJ, thank you so much for thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to see you in 3 weeks for the show. It's going to be incredible. And you know what? The work you guys do does show, because guess what? It allows me and other people to say this. You guys are the West Coast National. You're the second best show in the entire country. And I only know that's going to continue to grow from here. So thank you for doing what you do. I don't know how much you hear that from other dealers, but you have continued to put out an incredible product. And you are, like you said, 1 year into this. I can't wait to see what happens next. So thank you so much.
We appreciate it, guys. Kai, David, thank you guys. Man, we're excited. If you guys are coming out to Southern California, let me know. If you're seeing me walking around, make sure to quickly stop me and say what's up. But outside of that, guys, thank you guys so much, man. Sold Too Early, one of my favorite podcasts.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right, this will be out tomorrow, right around this time. So see you guys then. I don't know. That's how we end it. Peace.
See you then.